thing today that is absolutely fascinating, but honestly, it's deeply unsettling. You know, when you really think about it, the most terrifying stories out there, they don't actually feature ghosts or demons or supernatural monsters. No, the real terror comes from ordinary people crossing boundaries into our safe spaces, the places we think are untouchable. So let's just get right into it.
Just put yourself in this headspace for a second. Waking up with the sun directly overhead in a random set of bushes over an hour away in a complete stranger's grounds. That is a direct quote from the source material we're looking at today. It completely sets the stage for the visceral, gripping reality of the events we're going to unpack. This isn't fiction. This actually happened. And it forces us to ask a really profound question. What happens when the safe boundaries of your reality are just suddenly shattered? I mean, imagine your own daily safety protocols. The locks on your front door, the trusted group of friends around you, just completely failing without any warning whatsoever. It sounds like cinematic suspense, right? But for the individuals in these accounts, it was their literal reality.
Theme 1. The sanctuary violated, when home is a false fortress.
Picture this. A young boy is left home alone during this massive, raging thunderstorm. His mom gives him a strict, by-the-book safety routine before she leaves. Number 1, lock all the doors and windows. 2, keep at least one house light on. 3, make sure every single blind is closed. Now, these are highly logical steps, right? It's exactly what you'd tell your kid. But what's really fascinating and terrifying is how perfectly these steps create a false sense of security right before the suspense hits. He does everything right, the house is locked tight, yet the air inside still feels inexplicably cold.
And here is the exact moment that illusion of safety just evaporates. The boy is in bed, he's trying to sleep over the noise of the storm, and he hears this weird creaking sound. Boom, lightning flashes, and in that split second of illumination, he sees it. The closet door is slightly ajar. He is absolutely certain he closed it earlier. In an instant, his fortress crumbles. He realizes, with absolute dread, he is not alone in the house.
So he quietly slips out of bed and hides under the dining room table. What's really interesting here is the sensory detail he picks up on. He hears these wild, jumping, pinballing footsteps coming down the stairs. From his hiding spot, he can only see the intruder's lower half. He sees muddy, yellow-tinted, bare legs covered in cuts, stumbling around as if the person is struggling to even stand upright. And then, a heavy wrench drops to the floor. This visceral, almost disfigured nature of the intruder, it completely shatters any logical expectation of a standard stealthy home break-in. It's just pure chaos.
Now, let's see how this concept builds in a completely different context. Listen to this deeply unsettling yearbook signature given to an 8th grader. It's from a virtually unknown student named Samuel Robinson III. It says, "Hags, I'll be seeing you again." At first glance, you might think, well, it's just a weird note from a socially awkward kid, right? But it actually becomes the catalyst for our next massive breach of sanctuary.
Because here's the crucial point. How did an expelled stranger know exactly where this kid lived? Later that same night, during a basement sleepover, there's a rhythmic knock at the storm door. It's 2 a.m. They look out, and it's Samuel standing right there in the dark. We later learn this kid had actually been expelled weeks prior. The sheer terror here lies in the fact that a completely unknown, disconnected threat somehow managed to track our narrator to a private basement sleepover in the dead of night.
Moving on to Theme 2, the ghosts of childhood. Subconscious warnings.
This angle is psychologically fascinating. We're looking at how a child's subconscious mind might actually process a deep-seated threat way before the conscious mind catches on. Think about the direct comparison between a recurring childhood nightmare and actual real-world evidence. In the dream, you've got a digital clock counting backward, bizarre crayon drawings of a blue-roofed house, and a gray-haired man aggressively clawing at the bedroom window. But then, years later, the reality is uncovered, a completely severed family connection. Very real faint footprints found in the dirt right outside that exact bedroom window. It wasn't just a nightmare, it was a real-life stalker.
To really grasp how terrifying this was, we need to talk about sleep paralysis. During the 5th iteration of this recurring dream, the window was actually open. The narrator experienced that classic, horrifying temporary inability to move or speak. It's often accompanied by extreme cold and this overwhelming feeling of a threatening presence in the room. Grounding this in the psychology shows us exactly why the experience was so visceral. His brain was literally screaming at him to get up and check the window, but his body was completely frozen.
And eventually all the puzzle pieces finally fall into place. Years later, the parents come clean. They reveal the existence of an old family friend known as Uncle Brian, Apparently, a severe unspoken falling out had completely severed their ties, and Brian was strictly forbidden from ever coming near the child again. But here is the most chilling detail. Brian had a distinct forehead scar from a car accident. That was the exact same scar the boy saw in the man in his recurring dreams. His subconscious was raising a massive, blaring red flag about a real, forbidden figure from his infancy that he shouldn't have even remembered.
Let's transition to our final theme. Theme 3, the danger of deception. Predators in plain sight.
We're breaking down how perpetrators use charm, an illusion of normality, and environments where our guard is down to trap their victims. Look at how this night unfolds. At 10 p.m., 4 friends are stargazing on what they believe is a completely private beach. By 11 p.m., 3 very charming strangers approach them with a flashlight, acting entirely normal, totally friendly. At 2 a.m., our narrator decides she's tired and goes home to sleep, narrowly avoiding the trap. But then, at 3 a.m., she's jolted awake by a frantic FaceTime call from her friend. What started as a casual, safe vacation night escalated into absolute sheer terror in just a matter of hours.
The reality of that FaceTime call, it is an absolute gut punch. After a high-speed pursuit, the police managed to pull over the men's SUV. They popped the trunk. Inside, her friends Thea and Sabrina are found bound and bruised. And remember that beautiful, ultra-modern beach house the men claimed as their own to lure the girls in? It was completely fake. Well, the house was real, but it was actually stolen from an elderly couple who were away on vacation. The entire illusion of wealth and safety was a meticulously crafted fabrication.
Okay, let's look at one more scenario. This time in another highly deceptive environment, the Jersey Shore. Notice the massive, terrifying memory gap here. At 10 p.m., 2 guys meet 2 intelligent, seemingly wealthy girls at a DJ event. By 11:30 p.m., they're invited back to an opulent, maze-like modern beach house. Around midnight, the narrator starts feeling sudden limb numbness. He describes his body feeling like melting cardboard, which quickly leads to a complete blackout. And then, 10 a.m., he wakes up in the bushes, over an hour away from where he started.
The morning after is just a series of wildly unexplained anomalies. It wasn't just a simple blackout from drinking. He woke up wearing a complete stranger's clothing. His shoes were soaking wet, but get this, the shoelaces had been completely removed. Bizarre, contradictory text messages had been sent from his phone to his friends and family, perfectly mimicking a coherent night. Yet, despite being heavily drugged and dumped a whole hour away, both men's phones were just left together in a parking lot, and their credit cards completely untouched.
The staggering contrast here between the bait and the trap is what makes this so incredibly unsettling. The bait was highly sophisticated, intelligent women offering free drinks, leading them to an ultra-modern minimalistic beachfront home. It lowers all your defenses. But the reality of the trap? Experiencing the horrific sensation of your body melting under its own weight, being completely stripped of your belongings, redressed in random clothes, and dumped in an unknown town. It completely baffles the mind and just entirely defies typical criminal logic. If it wasn't about money, what was it about?
Which brings us to our conclusion. The unresolved unknown. Lingering trauma.
You know, the most profound psychological scar for the survivors in these stories isn't just the terrifying event itself, it's the absolute lack of closure. Look at these chilling unanswered questions drawn straight from our source material. Why didn't those parents ever call the police on the wrench-dropping intruder in their house? Was it actually Uncle Brian leaving those faint footprints at the window? Or was it a complete stranger that the boy's mind simply projected him onto? Who meticulously changed those drugged men's clothes and removed their shoelaces? And seriously, what was the actual endgame of that incredibly elaborate Jersey Shore trap if they didn't even want the credit cards? When logic just completely fails in the face of these anomalies, the human brain desperately struggles to process the trauma.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. When we look back at these fragmented memories, these unexplained intruders standing in the dark, and these highly elaborate, chilling deceptions, is the truth of what almost happened far scarier than the mystery left behind? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the boundaries of your reality, and I'll catch you next time.